Hey everyone, it's Dr. Namani and Dr. Louie back again with the Athlete Spine, and we're really excited to have Lara Dallman-Weiss here with us today. She's a two-time Olympian in sailing, fresh off the Paris Games, and we're really excited to talk to her today about how spine health is relevant in sailing and all of the unique aspects of her sport that put stress on her spine and other parts of her body. So, Lara, thanks so much for joining us today.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and this is a fun topic, like we were discussing earlier. I can probably speak for the both of us. We don't actually know much about the sport. So tell us a bit about what the actual competitions are like, what the training is like. Educate us a little bit.
Okay, Olympic sailing is a lot different than a lot of people imagine. And so our training is usually somewhere in Europe. So we're going to go there for a month at a time. So that will be probably 2 weeks of training at a venue because it's really important for us to learn the weather patterns, just kind of like get to know the venue we're going to be racing at. And then our actual competition is a week long, 6 days. So we'll go out for usually two races a day that are around 45 minutes to an hour each. Um, but we do a lot of warm up before that. And then early morning we do a lot of work on the boat. And then after the day ends, we work on the boat too. So our days are long, our weeks are long, our months are long. A lot of time on the road. The actual sailing itself, I sail a two-person boat, and my teammate drives the boat. So he's sitting on the back of the boat, and he's kind of like, it's called hiking out. He'll put his feet under a strap, and he'll just kind of be laying back, getting as much leverage as he can. I'm on a trapeze, and so I'm kind of hooked into this wire, and my feet are on the side of the boat, and then I'm also getting a lot of leverage. So we are both being super physical with the boat, while also pulling on different ropes to control the sails and control our speed in different ways. And at the same time, we're playing the weather. As the wind shifts, we want to make sure we're pointed the the kind of closest angle to the wind possible. So we're always tacking, which is like turning our boat to get up course. And we're also playing the other boats. So as they make different decisions, we're kind of changing our path based on them. So it's this really complex sport where we have a lot of factors changing all the time. Our playing ground is water, so that's always moving. We always have to balance ourselves and just kind of be as physical as we can to get the boat over waves and surfing down waves. And um, it's intense. That's
Yeah. And I guess the crazy thing to think about is that if you do the exact same course twice, it's never the same, right? Because obviously the tides are different, the waves are different, the weather's different. And so it's really quite dynamic and unique every time you race, huh?
Yeah, we work hard on like forgetting the past and always being in the present moment.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
You said and so I was reading on your bio before we started, and so you've been doing this since you were 6 years old. So this has been you've been doing this sport a long time, right?
Yes, and I can't remember a time in my life where I didn't know how to sail.
Mhm.
So one of my favorite things is teaching people how to sail and bringing people for the first time sailing.
Yeah, yeah. You said another interesting thing as we were starting that in terms of the muscle imbalances that can develop in sailors, just because you only pull ropes, you don't push ropes, right? So the entire sport is about pulling. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's pretty common. I guess the sport has gotten a lot more fit. Olympic sailing's gotten a lot more physical through the years. But it's been super common for people to have low back injuries, just really tight hip flexors from always kind of being in this, seated position, leaning
Hmm.
back. Um, not like I guess for me, I always have to gain weight, so I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting, probably not as much. I'm never doing as much mobility as I want, even though I feel like it's all I do. Um, and then yeah, it's just a lot of pulling muscles. So as many hours as you spend with the physio, it's still all gonna be like it never counterbalances the hours you spend sailing.
Yeah, and I know a lot of us as we were uh, watching the Olympics, which allows us to sort of be spectators in sports we don't generally watch in our everyday lives. I was sort of shocked by how your bodies just withstand like the constant movement and the constant changes that are going on. And like you said, you're always sort of managing the weather. Um, we had spoken earlier. It looks as though, this sport could be sort of it places you at risk for a lot of overuse and chronic injuries, sort of as your body's placed in a lot of positions where you're sort of holding tight and then pulling, holding tight and then pulling. Um, how, I guess, have you had any back injuries before, or know of others that have? And how does your training sort of help you prevent those types of injuries and recover?
Yeah. For me, I guess I also want to mention one other thing about sailing is that we spend a lot of time working on our boats. Like we don't have pit crews or,
Ah,
ribbon the boat right. And so there's a lot of time spent like hunched over the boat,
oh man.
fixing lines and stuff. So that's like damaging for us too. Um, I'm lucky in that I am really good about cross training in other sports and my morning mobility is a non-negotiable, so I do a lot of work on that, and I've stayed very healthy. No major injuries, but yeah, I did have an interesting back injury one day in 2018. I was sailing out in the Gulf Stream in Miami, huge waves, and so if we tow the boat out to where we want to sail, you're just being towed behind a like an 18-foot motorboat. And so you're kind of just like bouncing in waves. And that's a lot of compression on the back. And I just like didn't feel right when we were sailing out and got back into shore and was like, I couldn't even walk. It was terrible. Some of the worst pain. And so, yeah, that was such an interesting, um, I guess, adventure we can call it. Because at first you're overwhelmed and you're just in pain and everyone's saying, hey, go back to bed, like put some heat on it or ice. You're getting a lot of conflicting information. Went to our chiropractor. He was really helpful. He kind of like got it moving, but then, as soon as I'd lay down, it would just like kind of seize up again, so much pain. Um, and then I was talking to my sports psychologist who told me to read this book. I don't know if you guys have heard Sarno, this is the guy's name. Something about back pain. I'm
Hmm.
forgetting right now. But basically the whole thing was like this injury, it wasn't saying it's not real, but it was saying like you have to get up and move. Everything's going to tell you not to. Like you can go get an MRI and find something, which I did. They said it was like a herniation. And so he told me to get on a paddleboard, start moving, just start by like laying on my stomach and start paddling. And this is after days of being in bed, thinking that I'm gonna need surgery, not knowing what to do. And slowly it just started getting better and better. And the more I would move it, the more I could do. And that was really empowering. And it was just the wildest experience, just because pain, especially for an athlete, you don't know how hard to push it. You don't know
Yeah.
usually pain means stop.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that whole
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, I'm sorry, number one, that you had that experience. It's people who have herniated disc pain and the nerve pain that comes with that. It can be really horrible, and obviously we see patients that are kind of at the end of their ropes and have failed all of the usual stuff and need surgery. But the fact of the matter is that most of them get better on their own. And I think the advice that your sports psychologist gave you is totally right. And that, movement is key. I heard one of my patients once said to me, yeah, motion is lotion, and so if you start to get moving and everything, your body's going to tell you no, but as you do, especially with back pain, often, as you get moving, things will slowly ease up. So I think you got great advice.
Cool. Yeah, and that's so many of my other like little injuries, like if I have a knee pain or something, I have a personal trainer and I do FaceTime calls with him wherever I am in the world. And, you know, a lot of these things, I'll be in pain from sailing or overuse, and he'll get me lifting and he'll get the blood flow going. And I feel so much better after a lift, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I
still
think
don't.
that's just one of the misnomers of spine injuries in general, right? Like because for a lot of injuries, it's okay, you're clearly hurt. Obviously with the spine, there's nerves that can be involved, and then everyone's like, okay, just lie in bed. It's the same thing with our surgeries. Like a lot of patients, after they get their little disc bulge removed, sometimes with microdiscectomy or a little laminectomy, they ask us, all right, how many days am I going to be in bed for? I'm like, well, no, 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 no. We want you up and moving around, and we want you walking and trying to do some of at least your daily activities to engage your muscles, sort of engage your core to keep everything firing um, after these injuries or after these surgeries occur, because our bodies aren't built to rest for extended periods of time either. Muscles get weaker, we get stiffer, and then we're sort of prone to other injuries. So there's still a lot that, from an education standpoint, that we have to do from a healthcare perspective, because like the minute you have these symptoms, everything kind of locks up, and you just want to rest and you want to lie down, and then you realize, oh wait, everyone's telling me I need to move. So yeah, and that's what our literature supports, and anecdotally in our practices, we see the same thing. So I mean, that's it's sort of fun to hear your story because it's exactly that, right? You think one thing and you're sort of being told another, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes, and you realize, okay, this can be very helpful. But herniated discs are actually really common in these types of um, sort of your type of athlete, where there's a lot of compression, there's a lot of bending, there's a lot of awkward motions, and there's a lot of difficult forces that are being applied to your spine in a bended or twisted position, like when you said when you're sailing or working on the boat. So
Yeah, and I
it's
wear,
good to hear it's not
um,
that common in you.
because I'm on the trapeze, I have a harness that I wear. And so it's always interesting, fitting it correctly. You want to wear it tight enough where you're supported and my movements directly affect the sail through the wire that I'm hanging off of. But if I get it too tight, I don't have enough motion, and then our races are so long that I try to use my stabilizing muscles as much as possible, but sometimes I let go. And so yeah, that's been it causes a lot of pain for me.
Yeah. I'm also just imagining that if the trapeze is too loose, you fall off the boat, and fall out of the trapeze, which would not be good either.
Yeah.
It's happened before.
Well, Laura, I just want to say that thanks so much for joining us today. I mean, I think it's really awesome for our listeners to kind of hear about the unique demands that sailing has and puts on your body. And I think the thing that cuts across sports is that each sport has its own unique motions and muscles that are utilized, and the benefit of cross training is super important, and maintaining strength and all those other muscles that don't get worked out, in your individual sport. And then also the benefit of having someone like a sports psychologist. Obviously, most of us are not going to have access to that, but the idea of how the body affects the mind and the mind affects the body, I think is super important.
Totally. Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, for long flights, I have so many of them. Um, and I just sometimes I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
What do you guys do when you're on the plane?
So we probably have actually both of us do a fair bit of travel, for meetings. I think Dr. Louis more than me. I have on long flights, I make it a point to sit in the aisle seats. And even though I actually can't sleep on planes, if I sit in the aisle, I can't sleep at all. But for me, getting up and moving around, every hour or so is super important. I actually set an alarm on my phone, and every hour I remind myself, I get up and I go walk around and I do, some stretches and things like that. And that's helped me quite a bit in terms of, trying to keep the pain away that comes with sitting in a cramped seat for long periods of time. I don't know if Dr. Louis does anything different.
Yeah, I do a couple things. One, like we get a lot of pain when our bodies are in awkward positions for a long time, and the neck is very prone to that if you're trying to sleep or rest. So I think a neck pillow is actually really important because it sort of maintains a neutral neck, so you're not whiplashing around when you're trying to fall asleep. I do something a little bit more embarrassing, because I just feel like I get so stiff and uncomfortable on the plane. I will get up and I will do like walking lunges down to the bathroom just so I can
There's no shame
stretch.
in that.
a little bit and feel like I'm getting a little bit of pump in my legs just to get blood flow
Yeah.
going and feeling like I'm stretching because right every time you do a little lunge, you extend your back and that's so comfortable. Um, that's what I do. I
Someone,
will do that 2 to 3 times a flight rather than, getting up ever so often because I like the window seat and I don't really like to annoy the people next to me. But I don't know what's your favorite technique?
I mean, I've just found like a using a lacrosse ball or something, uh like especially when the plane takes off because there's so
Yeah.
much force. Um,
Oh,
but then someone told me recently, I haven't tried this yet, but if you like over cinch your seatbelt, it doesn't let you hyperextend your back and it kind of forces you to like take the pressure off.
Oh.
So I haven't tried that one yet. But
Seems like you'd be
let us know how
transferring
that
the
one
pain
goes.
to
Yeah.
a different
I
spot
just
then.
no, I just need to get on lay flat seats more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we
would
could all
all
use that. Yeah.
But no, that's always a tough one for me because we go right from long flights into boat work into sailing.
Oh,
Right.
Uh,
wow.
so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you find the trick that helps keeps you from having any pain, you please let us know, okay?
We'll do.
All right, everyone. So be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram. Until the next time, we'll see you later, okay? Thanks again, Laura.